So we all know that the largest share of hatred and bias against LGBT people comes from passages taken from the Bible that have been misused by organized religious traditions. These institutions have rejected and demonized LGBT people and injured many of us with the rhetoric and vitriol that they have spewed. Too many of us bear the scars from attacks from the pulpit of hate speech. And yet there have always been LGBT people in the church, the synagogue, the mosque, the sangha, for generations. People of faith who were gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and intersex. Some were silent and others were not. Some worked to change their institutions from within, and others were just living out their faith tradition and let that aspect of their sexual orientation or their gender identity lay quiescent to the strong power of their faith.
However, in recent years, starting 10 years ago, 20 years ago, even 40 years ago, those LGBT people of faith had the strength to begin to integrate their faith and their sexual orientation and gender identity. The task force has honored some of these pioneers in recent years, like Barbara Satin and Bishops Yvette Flunder and Jean Robinson. Yet saying that you are LGBT and religious has often been treated like a dirty secret. It was yet another coming out, and one that was not often well received in the broader LGBT community. How can you participate in a church that oppresses us, our friends would say? Because our very identities are woven together as queer and religious, we would answer. And we have been given the gift to help our religious communities heal of their hatred and remind our shared LGBT communities of their deep capacity for spirituality.
10 years ago, Irva Shivad, then director of the Policy Institute of the Task Force, and Laura Montgomery Rutt, the national organizer of Equal Partners in Faith, felt that it was time to give voice to those religious and LGBT leaders working for change, so they organized the first National Religious Leadership Roundtable. Vad said, "In recent years, people of faith have served on the front line against homophobia and paid severe consequences for their support of LGBT equality. From Reverend Jimmy Creech to Sister Janine Gramick to the 68 ministers of the United Methodist Church who faced trial for holding marriage ceremonies." The civil rights movement and the faith movement are intimately linked. The truth is that a vigorous pro-LGBT, faith-based movement exists and is growing stronger. 10 years ago, one of the first public events of the National Religious Leadership Roundtable was entitled Spirituality and Sexuality in the Image of God, and it was held very close to here in Colorado Springs. It attracted over 200 people.
At that meeting, we began the tradition of serving witness when we gather. In that tradition, we sent a public request to James Dobson of Focus on the Family to hear our case and together to begin a process of seeking truth about homosexuality and homosexuals. And that was signed by representatives from the original 22 participating organizations, which has now grown into over 70. Yes, amen. That meeting was covered by the New York Times, the Associated Press, and CNN. This tradition of lifting up truth and speaking with the voice of LGBT spirituality as a gift from God cannot be denied. From confronting James Dobson, to phone banking on anti-LGBT legislation, to being arrested on the streets in protest, the National Religious Leadership Roundtable continues to speak truth to power.
Today, we are celebrating 10 years of the Roundtable.
Woo!
Yeah, we'll have some applause. Thank you. We're honoring the founding members and the organizations who participated in the beginning. Their names appear behind me on the side.
At some point.
At some point. We want to thank them and honor them by continuing the work that they started. And as we have seen with Proposition 8 in California, when conservative religious voices are raised against us, our pro-LGBT religious voices have to be lifted in liberation. As Rabbi Tarfon said in Pirkei Avot, or the Ethics of the Fathers, it is not for you to finish the task, yet you are not free to desist from it.
And so tonight, we return thanks to God for the work and witness of the National Religious Leadership Roundtable. I would ask that all the former and current members of the Roundtable to please stand. These are our spiritual leaders and our colleagues in our pro-LGBTQI work. We invite you to work with us, and if you are so led, to come out as queer and religious. Happy 10th birthday, National Religious Leadership Roundtable.
And there's cake for all of you outside.